Hey everyone, welcome to the ADARA video series on ad customizers within Google Search Ads. For anyone who's not familiar with ad customizers, they're a feature within Google Ads that allows you to dynamically populate data from an external feed into your ad creative. And there are a number of use cases for this. If you want to create more personalized creative, you have the option to do that with customizers. If you want to dynamically update product or service information into your creative, you can do that. So it allows you to be a little bit more flexible with your campaign structure and strategy, where previously you would have to be really segmented in your campaigns or ad group structures to support these types of things. So what we're going to review is 3 separate different use cases for ad customizers. The first one being essentially an option that allows you to insert pricing information for a particular product or service from a feed file into the creative. So what we're going to be looking at today is an example from a fictional airline we've created and an advertising account associated with that organization. But this type of configuration could be used for other verticals as well, with a common one being retail. So this is an example of the end product you'll see, but essentially the first step to create this type of customizer is actually to create the feed file itself. And so to get to that area, you're going to want to go to Tools and Settings and navigate to the Business Data section of Google Ads, right? And so next step would be here, click this little plus icon, and then Add Customizer Data is what we're interested in. So at this point, you have the option to download a template of headers. We'll look at that in a second. And then if you're interested in reading Google's documentation on customizers, there's a little bit more information with everything that's available to use within the customizers option as well. So the file that is downloaded is not super straightforward to begin with, but after working with it and testing it a couple of times, have been able to determine how it works. But essentially, you have required targeting attributes in here. The first one being campaign, and this sort of tells Google where to put your ad customizer. Where do you want it displayed, right? And then you have the option to target based on campaign, ad group, keyword, or the user's actual physical location. The other ones in the file that are highlighted blue are optional or discretionary attributes, and these can really be whatever is relevant to your organization. They have an example of in here that looks like kitchen appliances, but this could be really anything that's relevant to your organization. So what we're doing for the airline is we are creating a feed of flight information. So these are routes, the associated IDs, and the starting price for that flight. And then we have a campaign and ad group that's targeted for that particular price, right? And so the first step is to create this file of information. It's easily most done within a spreadsheet, and then you'll want to upload it here in your business data section. So I have 2 already previously created, but we'll go through how to do that. It's pretty straightforward. So once you have the file made, let's click upload. And this is the same file that we were looking at here. Name it. And after a refresh, you should see whether or not that was uploaded correctly within the platform. All right, there's the one we just created. We can see it's being reviewed. If you did run into errors, Google would serve an error message, and you would also see it here in your upload history. You would have an error message here, and you can read specifically what the issue was. If you had an incorrect column header or something wasn't compatible, Google would throw an error. But this one works. So next step would be to create the ad copy. And so we're going to navigate to a non-branded ad group. And we already have some created, so we'll just edit one that's already live. And it's actually pretty straightforward. So all you'll need to do is go to the point you want to insert the data generated within the data file, start typing with a curly bracket, and Google will serve these automated options. So what we're interested in for this particular use case is Ad Customizer. And then you'll select the feed that you just uploaded. So we'll do root price, and then the attribute that you want dynamically populated into the creative. So for this example, we're using price, right? And then your preview should update if it's done correctly. You can toggle through that and make sure it's working. And then at this point, depending on the size of your account, you may be able to go through and build these manually in the online UI. What's usually a little bit easier for me is I'll create one initial variant in the online UI, download it to Google Ads editor, and then you have the same syntax you can use here and populate this through all the campaigns you're interested in using customizers for. The one difference here is that the preview doesn't work in the desktop application, but once it's uploaded into the engine, then your preview should be working fine. So some other useful tips for working with customizers. So what you'll want to do is use these in addition to standard expanded text ads. So if you're interested in using these, I wouldn't rely on these completely. If you're ever in an auction where you don't have a data point to pull from your feed, you want to have a backup ad to serve just in case. So use this in addition to expanded text ads. Another consideration is that this particular type of customizer isn't available for responsive search ads at this point. They will likely introduce customizers as an option for RSAs in the future, but at this point, if you're relying on those, you won't be able to use this option. The other thing you'll want to be cognizant of is you have the ability to schedule updates on a recurring basis for your feeds, which is really helpful, right? So if you're an organization that has data that's constantly changing, or is updated fairly regularly, or you just have a massive amount of it, so you have an e-commerce catalog with 300,000 products, then sort of building files, updating it manually is going to be really tedious to do. So what you'll want to do in those cases, build the initial feed manually, and then go to schedules, and then you'll have the option to source replacement data for your initial feed here. You can reference a Google sheet, which might be manageable for a small, medium-sized organization. The SEM manager can come in here and just update these values. But if you have a lot of data that's constantly changing, what you'll want to do is work with a developer to create a CSV file, place it either HTTPS or SFTP location that Google can then reference and update on a recurring basis. The fastest it can update is every 6 hours, and that should be enough for most organizations. But know that this is an option in here if you need to have your data updated regularly. All right, so that's everything on price-based customizers. In the next video series, we're going to go through how to use a GeoFeed. So thanks.